council and...
So if I hear you right, Steve, what you're suggesting is the board approve in principle the program and have the town administrator work out the details, so that it's being done properly, legally, and that...
And again, if it's the majority of the wishes of the board, convey the fact that we want adequate notification to the neighbors and public input and public safety involvement. But I don't expect that process to slow things down.
Are you proposing to put this in the form of a motion? Mr. Rowe. Mr. Rowe.
When I had mine done, I believe they used the same way. The forestry cutting program is filed with the state. The abutters are notified, and the land, the access to where they're going in is posted. There's a cutting operation in progress.
How did they go up there? How many acres did you have done, and how did they access it? What route did they take to get up through there? What neighborhood?
What they're talking about, the access is at the end of Fox Run. There's a pretty good sized cul-de-sac and a gate there, and that's what they're talking about, accessing all the land from. There is 3 gates on the Swan Pond Road, but right now, the forester would feel that would probably be the easiest and the best access.
How did they do yours? Did they just go up Swan Pond Road, and how did they access when you had yours done?
Well, there was only one access.
No, that was Swan Pond Road.
Yeah. So they posted. I had to notify the site, and they posted, where you come into my forest.
Who's considered the abutters? The abutters to the property that's going to be cut?
The abutters to the property that's going to be cut.
Okay, so not necessarily the neighborhood up through, Berwyn Road or Hemlock or up through McIntyre, the way that they're going to access.
Just the abutters.
Again, I still think it's important from a traffic standpoint that those people be considered like abutters and have some input and made aware that this is the time frame.
Are you making a motion?
It sounds as though I'm more or less endorsing the majority recommendation of the forestry committee. So,
I would second that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that the board endorse in concept, subject to details and review by the town administrator, the forestry committee's recommendation.
Would you go so far as to add in final approval by the board?
And final approval, absolutely.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Delaney. Further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Again, I think it's important to stress we'd like to see it done this season.
Next item on our agenda, informational hearing on October town meeting.
Nope.
I'm going to read the
Jeff may have.
public hearing notice. North Reading Board of Selectmen does hereby notify the residents of the town of North Reading that hearings on the following articles contained in the October 5th, 2009 town meeting warrant will be held Monday, September 14th, 2008 at 8 p.m., room 14 in Town Hall. And they are as follows. Hear and act on reports of town offices and committees. Authorize the naming of a portion of the Hillview Country Club for a local resident. The FY 2010 budget amendment. Accept General Laws, Chapter 64L, Section 2A, Local Meals Tax. Transfer monies from the Water Department Infrastructure Stabilization Fund to supplement Water Enterprise Fund. FY 2010 Capital Improvement Plan. Fund the FY 2011 reevaluation. Prior year's bills. Amend Article 7 of April 6, 2009 warrant, Parks and Recreation Revolving Fund reauthorized. Amend Code, Chapter 80, Hazardous Materials. Transfer funds from the Ambulance Enterprise account. Amend Code, add by General Law, Marijuana Consumption. Purchase of Map 72 Parcel 1 and Map 71 Parcel 11, 59, and 61 Adams Street property. Amend Code, add General Bylaw, Chapter 122, Noise. Fund the FY09 snow deficit. School reserve account transfer, ARRA funds for educational purposes, and the citizens petition for the Riverside Cemetery wall. And we're going to take them in the order that I've read them. So, the first article is to hear and act on reports of town offices and committees. I'm going to assume that that's just a standard article, and there's no questions from the audience associated with that, or the board. The Board of Selectmen have already voted to recommend that article. Any questions on Article 1? Yes.
It might be easier to go in the order of the warrant rather than a public hearing notice.
Okay, I'm going on...
Oh, okay, further proceeding?
I'm sorry. Okay. Probably people don't have copies of... Okay, Article 2, authorize the naming of a portion of Hillview Country Club for local residents.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. O'Leary.
The Hillview Country Club will be making a formal recommendation to the board after the conclusion of their Wednesday meeting.
Mhm.
So I would recommend that we hold our recommendation on this article till, it won't be published for the warrant, but town meeting floor.
Okay. Any questions or from the audience? Hearing them, we'll postpone a recommendation until after the Hillview recommendation.
Yes.
Article 3, accept Mass General Law, Chapter 46L, Section 2A, local option meals tax. To see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of General Laws C-64L, Section 2A, authorize the imposition of a local excise in the statutory amount of 0.75% on the sale of restaurant meals originating within the town, or what it will do thereto. I take it we have some people that, anybody want to speak for or against meals tax? Wow.
Mr. Lee.
Mr. Lee, I'm sorry. Watch the cables.
22 Aspen Road and 226 Main Street. I say 226 because I spend more time there than I do at 22 Aspen Road. So, on this particular article that's going to be addressed, I'd like the board to consider a little bit of what's going on right now. First of all, there probably couldn't be a worse time for a local meals tax to hit this industry. The industry's been kind of devastated, as a lot of others have been with the economy. Sales have been down, restaurants have closed. This has been something that's been going on for the last couple of years, and now we're going to be adding one more tax that the restaurants are going to have to pass along to the consumer. As we all know, the restaurants are dependent on disposable income. Minimize the disposable income, and you minimize the activity going on in a restaurant. I think if you look back at when the economy started heading south, you heard TV stations interviewing people, asking them, what are you going to do now that the economy's bad? You may have lost your job, or you're going to have to change your lifestyle. Probably the first thing that came out of their mouth was, we're probably going to not go out to dinner as much, or we're not going to go out to lunch, we're going to bring lunch to work, or whatever. So it has affected us considerably up to this point in time. And it's not just the business owners, it's the families that depend on the success of that business. And we have many restaurant owners that are members of the community and employees that are members of the community that I think will be affected if the consumer decides with this added tax that they're going to cut back even more dining out. Because what's happened now is, as we all know, the state went up to 6.25. Now you put 0.75% on that. That's a 40% increase from the previous 5% tax that was posted on meals. So we're going to be at a total of 7% with the combined state and local tax. And I have a feeling this is going to have more consumers think twice of going out to dinner and dining at home because of that dollar difference that's going to be created by the increase in tax. and it may even have a negative impact on how these local businesses interact with the community. Now, I'm not gonna say because of local meals tax, restaurants are gonna donate less to community activities and schools and that sort of thing, but what it may force is them to think twice about what they can do. It's not that they don't want to, but if business turns south even more, because people find that there's a greater impact of the increased tax that's burdened on them to go out to dinner, as opposed to purchasing at the store and dining at home, they may decide not to come into the restaurant. If they do that, less sales and less of an opportunity for these local businesses to support as many of the activities that they have in the past. Make no mistake that this has been a tax that's been pushed by the cities for some time now. This is not a small town tax. This is a city tax. Menino's been pushing for this tax for a couple of years now. He wants it at about 2%, not at 0.75% of 1%. So that being said, this really boils down to that. The other thing I want you to consider is that there are a number of towns that have voted against this at this point in time. Andover and Woburn are two that are close to home that have already said no to this tax. So now what have we done? We've created that disparity like we did when it came to the cigarettes and the non-smoking. You can in this town, you can't in that. So again, another point that I'd want the board to consider before supporting it. And as it comes about to these local businesses, we do, as local businesses, I think if you added up all the people that we employ in this town, I think we do a pretty good job of our employment enrollments and also in property taxes and state taxes paid through our meals tax throughout the year. And I guess I have a couple of questions for the board before I close. I just want to make sure that if, well, the way this is written, are the funds going to be sent, 100% of the funds collected in North Reading sent back to North Reading, or is it going to be, kind of like the lottery, where the monies may be distributed to the other cities and towns that's collected here in town, and then the other is the language that may limit the tax that would be increased from year to year. So in other words, we start out 0.75% this year, and it goes to 2% next year. Is there a way of limiting that? Is that language written in there at this point in time? Does anybody know?
I don't know about the additions.
Mm-hmm.
What I do know is that we will receive 100% of the money collected in North Reading.
Okay.
And it's estimated that that revenue would be around, and this is an estimate obviously, but it does come from historically state numbers associated with what they collect for meals tax, is around $120,000.
And I even would question if that tax kicks in, the consumer decides they want to cut back a little bit on dining out, if the town will actually see the monies that are projected, if the consumer decides they want to cut back on dining. So that money's coming back, that projection of 120,000 might be a little bit less than that.
The number that, the 120,000 we believe is a conservative number based on the current economy. Now, obviously, if things turn down further, then we could see even a further reduction in that number.
And I guess my final point is, I'll ask the board their opinion, and I'll even give it a multiple choice. If this does pass, will the consumer, A, eat out more, B, eat out less, maybe do takeout, and not have to eat in and pay for beverage and tips, or C, stay at home and dine at home more and cook at home more. So I think, it's kind of difficult to decide exactly what the consumer's going to do, but I'd like you to consider what their options might be if this does pass.
I've given this a lot of thought, and I say, if I have a $100 restaurant fee, it's going to cost me an extra 75 cents. I guess the way I look at it is, that's not going to prevent me from going to a restaurant.